My name is Tyler Fornes, and I am one of the co-hosts of the Good, the Bad, and the Hungy AEW podcast here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. We take a broad scope approach to the world of All Elite Wrestling and the entire universe of Tony Khan. We talk about the big matches, the big stars, the promos, the storylines, and we also look at it from a big picture perspective. How are things going to change over the course of the next 10 years with AEW still in the picture? How are companies like WWE going to adapt and adjust to AEW? Are they going to be a similar way like they did with WCW in the late 1990s? Will there be a counterpunch? We talk about all of that and more on The Good, the Bad, and the Hungy every week on the Voices of Wrestling Network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Super J Cast. I'm Joel, joined by Damon McDonald. It's Monday 17th of August, 2026. This is episode 422. We're back, we're so back again. The level of backness has never been more back.
We're back. It feels good, doesn't it? It feels good to have some buzz around the promotion that you do a podcast on for 420 some odd episodes. It's exciting, it's fun, a lot of energy's high, right, with everyone, and it's like, you know, there are a couple times in the past couple of years, mind you, where we've said it, and sometimes we said it with our tongue planted in our cheeks firmly, but this time it really feels it. It really does, and it feels like the future is bright. So, obviously, a ton to talk about today. Not a lot of nonsense, I would expect. I mean, a little bit of nonsense, that's what we do, but not a lot. So buckle in, kids. We're in for a fun ride.
Yes, any follow-up questions you might have from last week's discussion of menstruation will have to wait. There'll be no talking about menstruation this week. Absolutely not. We're going to be talking pure Shin-Nihon Pro Wrestling because... What a weekend. Yeah. Not just for New Japan, but for the sport. There's so many different things we can talk about. You know what? I'm going to start by giving some shout outs. I want to throw some flowers at people who might not get flowers thrown at them. And that is, okay, so I've got 4 people I want to shout out. Well, first 2, obviously, is Chris Charlton and Walker Stewart, who I thought did an absolutely outstanding job, not just for the semi-finals and the finals, and, you know, those big matches, the big spots, they made them sound big and they resonated all the important moments, like absolutely conveyed the storylines that needed to be told, and they were just tremendous. And throughout the whole tour, Walker has been excellent and Chris has been great when he's been on there. So I wanted to throw some love at them because they're the best commentary team in the world, bar none.
Love it. I'm down for that. Like, you know, those matches and those moments and those, and we'll talk about it a lot, trust me, that those plant the flag in the sand type of pro wrestling moments are only made better and stronger and more important by your announce team. I mean, again, imagine, listen, I know a lot of people who just like the Japanese feed. I get it. I understand it. I sometimes I like it just to feel more than understand. You know, I sometimes it's the emotion of the voice and everything else. But I think they nailed it this entire tour. Yeah. So yeah, hats off to both of them. They did great, and they made a great weekend even better. So yes, absolutely, I'm with you with that one. All right, number 2.
Number 2. Now, of course, I've been you and I have been doing the daily audio for the G1 Climax, which is no mean feat. It's difficult and be challenging to do that, especially when you reach the dog days of the tournament, and you might be watching one of the shows where the wrestlers are not at their best and they're kind of conserving their energy for the the key parts of the tour coming later on, or they might have, emptied the tank and prior nights, and you're sitting there watching the matches thinking, this is fine, this is okay, but you don't have a huge amount to sink your teeth into in a narrative sense, and it can be quite daunting to lock in and come up with compelling audio to talk about what you've just seen.
I don't have any problem with that, sir. I'm sorry.
We don't have a problem with that. We were excellent at it. Really. A lot of people who have done that before really struggle with it. Someone who didn't struggle with it, who I thought consistently produced outstanding audio night after night, was Josh from We Work Stiff. So I want to shout out him as well, because I've had a wonderful time listening to his audio. I always try and make sure that I listen to it after I've done my own recording, so I'm not prejudiced by what he's going to say, and just so I can sort of enjoy and see what commonalities we touched upon. But he's a guy with a real deep love for the product, and I'm just absolutely thrilled for fans like him and us to be able to enjoy this moment. And yeah, if you haven't listened to We Work Stiff, then absolutely check them out. And yeah, the paywall stuff that Josh has done for this G1 Climax has been excellent. Really just stellar stuff, where he just gets to the heart of the heart and the soul of New Japan Pro Wrestling and the characters and the narratives that they're trying to tell. So really brilliant stuff from Josh. And the last person I want to shout was Chris Samsa, of course, who's been a real soldier for New Japan during this tour, saying things that needed to be said, and also there's just the brilliant work that he's done every day with the important stats and data that's really enhanced my enjoyment of the tour. So yeah, I just wanted to throw some love at other people in the New Japan community who I think have done really important work to help make this tournament a success. I was going to say just as much as the wrestlers. I mean, that's ludicrous, but people whose work I found a lot of enjoyment in. That's been a great compliment to the wonderful wrestling that we've enjoyed.
I feel like at this point in the game, and again, we've been doing this for a long time, it feels like. There are times where it feels like it's longer than it should be. I think right now, between everyone who contributes, and there are people that are quite honestly outside of even my scope and outside of the normal feedback that I hear and stuff like that, and just I'm not active on social media or anything like that, but I feel like we're in a real good spot with the coverage that this company gets. And again, whether that's Josh, whether that's the Keeping It Strong style guys, whether that's us, to be quite frank, you're going, again, we're not for everybody. I get that. And I don't want to be for everyone. I think we're the best, but I think there are people that do outstanding work in this space. So there's somebody for everybody, and it's not like you're taking a step back. I feel like just like you said, there are people that are creating content, and I hate saying that out loud, but here we are. That really. The passion comes through, and intelligent, thought-provoking things. And even there are times where it's like, I got a hard disagree. I can't. But even then, it's like, all right, they at least they have conviction, right? And it's not just troll central. But yeah, I think we're in a really good spot with, if you're a fan of this promotion, we're in a really good spot. We're in a really good spot. So just find your groove and latch on, and I think it's good to have diverse, different opinions. I think that's important too. Again, just consume. Now's the time. Get in. And there are a lot of people that have jumped on this week, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, where the fuck were you 3 years ago? No. That's not today. It's a time where people are celebrating, man, and some decent, for the first time, dare I say, decent pro wrestling conversation that has been drawn from this past weekend, and I think that's a good thing. It's a good thing. So yeah, listen, I love what we do on this show. I still will tell you, and I go to my grave, that I love what we do, and I think we do it the best. I'm sorry. But I think for the first time in as long as I've been doing this, I feel comfortable saying that you have just really solid options as well. So hopefully continue to support us with a $10 tier. And we'll do our best to help you along. I can't say there won't be dick jokes. There will be. That's just what it is. But right now, we're celebrating a great weekend.
So there's so much to get stuck into, Damon. It's hard to know where to start, really. So let's talk about attendance. Let's do the numbers. Let's crunch the numbers. So for semi-finals, we had 7,777 lucky sevens. Only Final Fantasy VII enjoys. And last year, it was 4,558. That was at Ariake Arena. And finals this year, we had 7,260. Last year, 6,870. That was also at Ariake Arena. So obviously a change of venue here. And if we take that in totality over the 2 nights, it's an increase of 3,609 fans. So 31.6% boost. Now, however, I think it's important for us to acknowledge that the Hiroyoshi Tenzan retirement did a lot of heavy lifting on the semi-final night. So perhaps looking at the final is maybe a more instructive comparison. So if we just look at that, that's an increase of 390. So 5.7% increase. So, it's not the biggest increase year on year. But if we take the entire tour in its totality, it's 50,487, which is an increase of 17.2% from last year. So with the caveats of the Tenzan retirement and the first night being in Chicago, all of that notwithstanding, 70% increase from last year, which I think is good, especially considering that we had the missing Shota Umino. I think if Shota was there, then we'd have an even greater year-on-year improvement. But yeah, I think that's a good sign for New Japan that we've reached the kind of sort of solid baseline there, and we're starting to see some green shoots and bringing back hopefully some of the old fans and some new fans along the way.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago probably did inflate those numbers a little bit, but they still ran the show. Right? People still came and bought tickets and all that. So that they could have drawn up 50 people. And going into it, trust me, we all had our concerns going into Chicago. And the Tenzan retirement exhibition 5-minute match also, I think it did. It played a factor in that. And you could just tell, but just by the look of the crowd, right? There are a lot of uncles and aunties in that crowd, right? And that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. And hopefully they saw stuff that they enjoyed, and maybe they'll hitch their wagon back again. So, when you talk about the overall numbers, and that's you can't hand wave that. I think it's a very good thing. The hard part now is just riding that momentum, and hopefully they do. And I think that's going to be a common thread throughout this entire conversation and podcast. But I think that's a positive as well. I don't think anybody. Let's put it this way: I don't think anybody in the New Japan offices is hand waving those numbers. They're probably popping a couple champagne bottles right now.
So I want to do like a whistle stop tour of notable things that happen on the undercards of these two shows. I don't want to go match by match because I don't think there was enough to warrant it. I mean, that's one of the things that I dislike about these semi-finals and final shows is that, particularly with the finals, it's just a load of undercard multi-man tag matches that have varying degrees of significance. So I've just picked out a few talking points from these. So the first one was, I want to talk about Kosei Fujita, who it was just the finish of his match. I forget which night it was. It was one of the Young Lions. I think it was the second night when he was wrestling Matsumoto, and he got him in that kind of front chancery, like elevated guillotine, where his legs were sort of dangling, and it looked like he was literally killing him. And that looked incredible. And I was like, wow, this guy has just got such aura. He's such a cocky little fuck, and he's so good at wrestling. And I've missed him. I didn't sort of realize how much I've missed Kosei Fujita because he's been really excellent this year. So the big news coming out from his exploits over these two nights was that he has challenged Aaron Wolf for the never openweight title. Now, sadly, Aaron Wolf couldn't make it to the final night.
Why, Joel?
He was unwell, Damon.
Was he?
Can't be specific, but it was something that's not too serious.
No.
Alka-Seltzer, full English breakfast. He'll be all right.
That's right.
I am tremendously excited by the prospect of seeing Aaron Wolf defending that never openweight title in a proper openweight match against Kosei Fujita. I mean, these Aaron Wolf versus Fujita. That's great. I'm so excited about that. Like, these are two future stars of the company. They're going to be wrestling on the Destruction show. Is it? Have I got this right?
I think so. I think it's the Destruction show.
Yeah,
double check.
I don't have the exact date here, but they will wrestle each other. And holy shit, Aaron Wolf versus Kosei Fujita.
Yeah. That's. I love the never being that, where it's guys that might not fit your preconceived notion of what a never title defense might be, and again, that those might be things that you're hanging on to, from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Was it never around 20 years ago? I don't know. Good question, Mike. Let's see here.
I think it was about that, wasn't it? Maybe a bit less than that.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, who cares? The idea of, you talk about the big bear and just tossing around someone who can take great bumps. And again, has fantastic offense. Don't get me wrong. It's not like he's just going to sit there and take shit from Aaron Wolf all day. But, we always talk about those size differential matches. And sometimes it's good to have like Jeff Cobb matches that we talked about many times on this show, where it's, having a guy that can, make someone look even better than he is. That's exciting. It's fun. That's good shit right there. Yep.
And there was also the return of Jeff Cobb, who it's a very entertaining finish to the Mighty Man tag match that featured Callum Newman. So the
beheading,
the way he finished the match, the beheading. Yeah. So he beat up. Who did he beat up? Was it Daiki Nagai? I can't remember who he faced now. Was it on the first night or the second night that Jeff Cobb came back?
Second night.
Second night. Okay, so I'm looking at the wrong night then. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So he was wrestling someone. I think it was Daiki Nagai. And after he did his move, he just did this really cocky pin where he was just kind of like using Daiki Nagai as a cushion to relax on as a ref counting to 3. Then he got his sword out and was about to slash his throat and just slice his jugular veins and just blood spurting everywhere, which was seconds away from happening. And then very casually coming down, be like, "Oh, you look quite upset.
Relax.
Take it easy, my boy." And Jeff Cobb returns, who has not joined United Empire. I think I saw some comment somewhere he doesn't want to join United Empire because, and I quote, some emo guy spreading bad rumors about me. So that's still, that grudge is still alive and well. But instead he has joined Unbound Company. So we're going to be seeing at the Destruction show a special singles match between Jeff Cobb and Callum Newman. So how are you feeling about Jeff Cobb rejoining the company after his disastrous failure to establish himself as JC Mateo in WWE?
I guess absence might make the heart grow fonder. I think at the time everybody was ready for a break. I think everybody was ready for, all right, let's move on. What else can we do? Possibly this does breathe some fresh life into the idea of Jeff Cobb in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I still think Jeff Cobb is very good. I have no complaints with him in ring. And I think, again, having some of the shackles that WWE will put on you and having them lifted, is only going to be a positive. I think it's fine, honestly. I think it's fine. It looks like it will be a Callum Newman program for the autumn months, and I ain't got no problem with that. I think those matches will be fantastic, actually. Again, if you listened last week, we were, strongly hinting at it, and I'm sure on our Discord we were in a deli. We had made mention there, so listen, another reason. I'm not that I'm pimping out the $10 tier, but $10 tier, kids, you would have known about this a little bit ago. But I think it's a good thing. Look, he's been pining to come back for a while now, and it's debatable on. Well, listen, I guess the bridges weren't totally burned. Let's put it that way, and both saw value, and away we go. So I'm okay with this.
Yeah, I don't see him to be slotted back to where he was prior to that. I don't think he's going to be a main event mainstay or anything like that. I think his role is probably going to be, I don't want to say enhancement like a jobber, but I think he could be quite a useful part in helping to establish this new generation of guys. Like if we think about potential matches like Jeff Cobb versus Oleg Boltin, or Jeff Cobb versus Aaron Wolf, or Jeff Cobb versus Ryohei Oiwa, I think like there's potential for some really good stuff there. So as long as he's got the right attitude and has got his working boots on, then I think there's potential for a lot of really fun matches there.
Yeah. And again, I'm sure there was coming back with a little hat in hand thing going. And we'll see. I would agree. I think him being there to help the company make and solidify guys that need to have that solidification, if that's a phrase. I think that role would be perfect for him. And again, I wouldn't have a problem with a TV title. I wouldn't have a problem with Never. I wouldn't have a problem with him in the tag mix. None at all. Zero. And again, if we're going to have a little feud with Callum Newman, I think it's a great start. I got no problem with that. Do I expect like a world title reign? No, I don't. But just like you described, if he's there to help, solidify a star, I got no problem with that.
So there was a match on the semi-finals night that had a lot of people in it. It was a 10-man tag match between Wato, Yo, Yuji Nagata, Yano, Makabe against Gedo, Ishimori, Oscar, Yuta, Ice, and Shingo, which ended in a very surprising upset finish with Toru Yano pinning Oscar after 6 minutes, 26 seconds with a roll-up, which has annoyed quite a few people and has set up a match for the Destruction Tour, where on the 19th of September, the most violent players, which is Yano and Makabe, will be facing the Knockout Brothers for an IWGP Tag Team #1 contenders match. So did you have any strong objections to Oscar being pinned by Yano as a vehicle to setting up this #1 contenders match? Do you think like we're kind of past the era of Yano and Makabe having any value in the company, or do you? Okay.
No, we definitely are, but know that I'm assuming New Japan has done crazier things, mind you, but yeah, this to me sounds like Yuta, Ice, and Oscar, who are coming out of G1 with chips on their shoulder and in a lot of people's eyes, at least maybe not red hot, but a hot commodity, and moving some merch from what we understand. So yeah, we're gonna card out a team. Here's what it is: we're gonna beat Togi Makabe, and who still to this day has at least a reputation of being a guy who's a tough son of a bitch. And yeah, are we tapping into a little bit of yesteryear? Of course we are. I think everybody can relax. I think, and again, this is coming from a person who said, I don't know how they can go back to Knockout Brothers, but they are. And okay, they are. I think this is just a vehicle to further establish Ice and Oscar as guys who are on pardon the pun, on a mission, men on a mission, and why not? Why not take out some legends along the way? So,
yeah. So what? They're wrestling men on a mission.
Yes, wasn't there Oscar in Men on a Mission? Look at that! Look at how the synergy comes together. Who would have thought that Men on a Mission on a day like today?
Wasn't it?
Mabel, yes. I was there when he won the.
No, you're right. There was Oscar. No, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. He was like the sidekick guy,
manager, rapping manager.
Yeah, that's right, Joel. See, who would have thought that today we would be have a Men on a Mission reference? But yes, again, everyone can calm down and relax. I think this is just another feather in Knockout Brothers' cap, so to speak.
Yeah. This could be really good because I like Oscar when he gets really angry and he starts sort of like quasi shooting on people. So on the microphone, at least, I'm hoping for lots of instances where he's doing guest color commentary on the English commentary booth and is just absolutely mouthing off about Yano. And yeah, hopefully the match they can really. What I would like to see is them just putting a beat down on the most violent player. It's not necessarily a squash match, but by the end of it, I think what you want is them just absolutely beating the shit out of Yano and Makabe and generating a bit of sympathy for them and looking at Oscar and Yuta like, oh god, these guys are monsters. Don't want to fuck about with them. But we'll wait and see what that one turns out to be. Next thing I want to touch on is the brewing feud between Gabe Kidd and Driller Maloney, who are going to be facing each other for the IWGP Global title on the 27th of September, that Destruction show. And they had a really, I found quite compelling backstage segment where Driller confronted Gabe in the corridor and they were nose to nose. It was very almost sort of homoerotically charged. I was thinking they were going to start kissing,
wow.
But it was very intense. They were right up in each other's faces. And if you've not seen it, I definitely think it's worth going out of your way to check out. And Driller just talking about how he was there for Gabe when Gabe was at his lowest ebb and how, he's not there anymore. Like inside his head, he's gone somewhere else. And I can't really do it justice, but it's definitely worth seeking out. And I think there's potential there for a really fantastic match. I worry that if they get a bit too self-indulgent with it, like I would hope someone is there to possibly rein in some of Gabe Kidd's wackier ideas and more base instincts to I think Gabe is at his best when he's working against the Japanese wrestlers, because he seems to just sort of tone it down a bit there, whereas when I don't know if this is correlation implying causation, but he just seems to be significantly less palatable to me when he's wrestling against other white people, because then he just seems to be off his head. Suck your mum, fuck this, fuck that. So I hope they can find a balance between having an intense hot match and not going too hard on the Gabeisms.
Yeah. I mean, that's always a concern, isn't it, with Gabe? But I don't know. I kind of I enjoyed that backstage in the hallway, behind the scenes, so to speak. It did remind me of a lot of times. Once again, I'm probably going to be referencing the 90s a lot, but you would get those backstage, and even in the 80s, you would get those in the dressing room and in the hallway kind of confrontation things where, extremely heated, very personal. And, you felt that here. It definitely felt very, I don't want to say unplanned, but it felt organic, and the arguing back and forth felt organic. It didn't feel, at least to me, like it was contrived and stuff like that. I did like Shingo in the mix, though. Oh, Kobe, that's my second hometown. Yeah, it was pretty funny. But yes, it felt genuine. And it did remind me of a lot of those, you would see it with Riki Choshu and Tatsumi Fujinami getting in Inoki's face and wanting to be the guy. And, all throughout the years, you would see stuff like that. So, no, I liked it. It gave me it gave me way back when vibes, and that's a good thing. And I think that's really a reoccurring theme that we have throughout both nights.
How do you feel about AI Inoki?
Oh, that was weird,
horrible, wasn't it?
That was, yeah. I don't know who greenlit that. Listen, we're here to throw flowers around for this weekend. That was a low light for sure. Yeah, I don't know who greenlit that. I don't know why we would want to do that. I don't know. I don't know. I understand the feeling behind it, I guess. Like I kind of get what they wanted to do and but no, that's a hard no. What that reminded me of. Remember back in, I don't even know, it might have been like, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or so, when people were talking about, and it might have been like Coachella or some festival or whatever, and they were talking about like a hologram of Tupac or something like that, and it's like, that's no, I don't think anybody really wants that. That's what it reminded me of. Oh, they got the hologram of Tupac. Yeah, I don't. Here, I'm going to lay it out right now. That should never be done in any scenario. You know who I have? I have a family member who is, I don't know if obsessed is the word, Joe, but like he loves to do that and like animate photos through AI of dead relatives. And I want to put my fists down his fucking throat. Like, I'm just like, what the fuck? Why would anybody think this is a good idea? Yeah, it's not a good idea. That was a low light of the tournament, or not even of the tournament, of the weekend. Yeah, I can't think of a lower low light than that. That was shit. Sorry, whoever greenlighted that should be fucking axed.
Yeah, I realize there's not the same stigma attached to generative AI in Japan as there is here in the West. Although having said that, I did see quite a lot of disapproving tweet responses to the videos of that. So, yeah, just maybe don't do things like that of dead people. I think that should be a given. But hey, maybe Inoki would have really enjoyed it. Who knows?
You think so? You think so?
I'm not a fan. Just one little thing here. Like, yes. I'm not going to do a full preview of the match, but I felt vindicated by this because I've been banging on throughout all our G1 talk, covering the C block and wrestlers picking up lots of pins and racking up points in the C block and the significance of that. And I noted that Taiji Shimori had been accumulating a lot of falls on the undercards and said perhaps that is going to set him up to be a challenger for Yo's title. And learned the hold, that's exactly what happened. So I don't have a huge amount more to say about that apart from the C block matters, and I was right to be tracking it. So I told you so.
Well, you did. And you deserve the flowers for that, absolutely, as well. Yes, him, Jackson Hartley. He was a top performer in the C block. Correct me if I'm wrong. Who else? Was Acura?
Jacob Austin Young. So we're yet to see the payoff for that, but I'm sure it's coming soon because the C block is not for nothing. But yeah, that's all.
There you go.
Right. Last thing to touch on before we get into the G1 Climax semi-finals is the debut of former Dragon Gate ace Shun Skywalker, who is now the new leader of House of Torture and has challenged Konosuke Takeshita for his NJPW World TV Championship. So that will be on the Destruction Show on the 27th. So Takeshita versus Skywalker for the TV title. And I don't know a huge amount about Shun Skywalker. I've watched a few of his matches, but not consistently, nothing recent. There was a very good episode of Open the Voice Gate where Mike Spears and Case Lowe did a retrospective on Shun Skywalker's Dragon Gate career. So if you want to get a bit of insight and recommendations for some of his best matches and what we can expect to see from him in New Japan, then check out the most recent episode of Open the Voice Gate, because it's very enlightening on an area that I don't know much about. And yeah, it seems to be quite a controversial one. A guy who, from what I understand, on his day, is extremely talented and can have excellent matches. He's a high flyer. He's an ambitious guy, very creative. But when his creative instincts are left unchecked and he is given a bit of the old "doesn't work for me, brother" power, then can sort of go off the rails a bit. So it seems like House of Torture, in that sense, is a very good fit for him and the kind of thing he wants to do. So I know Dragon Gate fans are not particularly enthused to continue following the career of Shun Skywalker, and they're not really expecting anything particularly good to come out of his transition to New Japan, particularly in House of Torture. But I quite looking forward to it, just because it's something different.
Right.
I'm not saying it's going to be like the best iteration of Shun Skywalker and he's going to be having matches in New Japan that are better than anything he did in Dragon Gate. I mean, he might, but I'm not necessarily hoping for that. I just think it's something different, and if he can bring something a bit different and interesting and creative to House of Torture as a group, then I welcome that, because obviously the company just absolutely love the faction and they're never going to get rid of them. So at least we've got a bit of a refreshing change at the top here with a new talent and a big name from another company who's got lots of creative ideas, some of them good, some of them not so good. So I think as long as we sort of manage our expectations accordingly, I'm quite excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I'm willing to give it a shot at least, for all the reasons that you said. Something different. I mean, I don't mind thinking outside the box. Let's put it that way. And I know that there are, and I trust people who follow Dragon Gate and are into it, and their responses and their opinions on this matter. Absolutely. But even with that said, you never know, right? And I say that with a complete shoulder shrug. I'm willing to give it a shot. I'm willing to give it a little bit of rope and see where we go. Again, the bar is pretty fucking low when it comes to House of Torture. So I don't think I know anything. I don't think I'm saying anything revolutionary here in the sense of no one really cares for it, and in the right spots you can swallow it. And this might be something new and fresh, maybe. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's the TV title. And while there have been times when the TV title generally felt like the most exciting title in the company. Again, brief pockets, but I think I could confidently say that, at least for me, I was probably most excited about it. 15-minute sprint matches always seem to be a positive. We'll see. Again, it is something different with House of Torture, so we'll see. That's the best I can give you. We'll see.
The quote that made me laugh from Mike Spears to describe the situation, he said, in summary, imagine you've got this French laundry level chef who for 8 years put out some of the most innovative, great meals in the world. However, for the last year plus, he only wanted to make PB&Js, and now he's gone to a bigger restaurant just to make PB&Js. So if that doesn't cool your intrigue in the situation, then nothing will. So there we go. I mean, Mike knows the situation better than anyone. So I would say manage your expectations, but who knows? He might surprise us there.
Yep. I mean, I value that opinion more than just about anyone's when it comes to Dragon Gate and this situation. So, again, I have a very low expectations to begin with. So any type of glimmer of hope I can cling to, I'm clinging. And it's new, and it hasn't happened yet. So maybe he exceeds the low bar that is set. Fingers crossed.
I think it's quite smart as well to position him in the big heel faction, because if we've learned anything from the initial Takeshita run, is that New Japan fans don't really want to cheer for outsiders. And it's actually quite interesting that they've immediately positioned him against Takeshita. So in in sort of consolidating this idea that this is an outsider from a different company and people are going to want to boo him anyway, so let's make him a heel, but also sort of using that as a vehicle to try to get some possible babyface heat for get people going to Takeshita, who I think Takeshita's done brilliant work so far this year in just being really selfless. She's been an excellent worker who's helped Tsuji in particular at Wrestle Kingdom, Oleg Boltin with the series of matches they've had, and Oiwa in the sort of de facto playoff match they had, really sort of helping those guys to shine. So I wonder if maybe the tide of opinion might be turning in Takeshita's favour. Like, I'll be interested to see if New Japan fans are ready to embrace him as one of their own, particularly in this feud with Shun Skywalker. But
that's a good point. Yeah.
Let's start by talking about this critically acclaimed, universally praised 5-star classic starring Yujiro Takahashi, who's a 5-star wrestler, was given 5 stars by Dave Meltzer for his role in the Grand Prix International 2026 Torneo Cibernetico, which I assume is just like a one-on-one pure mat wrestling match where Yujiro has just turned back the years and put on an absolute clinic there. He's officially a 5-star wrestler. I don't want to hear you people telling me, no, it's actually a 22-man right. He just came in at the end and got pinned. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to know specifics. All I know is that Yujiro Takahashi is a 5-star wrestler and officially better than Kurt Angle. So there's that. Celebrate that. Huge 5-star huge.
Wow. Yeah, sometimes you're in the right spot, sometimes you're at the right place at the right time. That's the best I can tell you. And if you're lucky enough to be there, fantastic. Good for you. And you can have your name in the record books as well. Do people still, and you would have a better gauge because I don't. Do people still give a fuck what Dave gives a match at this point? Like, is that still, because back in the day it was important, and back in the really, people still get their panties in
people enjoy getting angry over it. There was a funny one where there was I think it might have been Takeshita Oiwa, a match that I really loved, and he gave 4 1/4 to, which great, that's a very high rating for a match. But he gave the exact same rating to, I think it was a match between Chris Jericho and Kevin Knight, which had a horrendous interference finish where, I don't know if you saw it, where Chris Jericho had Kevin Knight in the walls of Jericho, and then Don Callis came to do a run-in, and he was too far away from Jericho to be able to attack him with whatever the weapon happened to be. So he had to, Jericho had to shuffle over for no apparent reason to be closer to the edge of the ring so Don Callis could hit him in the face with an object. And that got the same star rating as Takeshita versus Oiwa. So I think people enjoy just sort of picking at that scab and making themselves indignant over it. But
do people really think he sits there and watches all these matches? Like, and he never has. Like, can I be very clear? He never really has. He's probably skimmed through matches. He has people watching matches and reporting back, and he kind of takes that opinion and maybe formulates his own from it. But yeah, I truly, I don't care what I know. Who I care about? Me. You know what I mean? I care about me and what I think of a match. I don't care what Dave thinks of a match. Now before, when you would get the newsletter via the postman, because why? You didn't have access to 90% of the stuff he was talking about, whether it be, unless you were, seriously hardcore tape trader. You weren't seeing New Japan. Where were you seeing New Japan? You were getting it 6 months after the fact from fucking Jeff Lynch. You know what I mean? You weren't watching. You weren't getting Memphis tapes. You weren't maybe you did, maybe you didn't. That's what trade tape, the tape trading scene was. So yeah, when Dave talked about, I think this match was 4.5 stars, or Dave would say, yep, this is a 5-star. Yeah, people went out of their way to find the matches and spend $40 on a comp tape from Jeff Lynch. And I mentioned Jeff Lynch because at the time, like, he was the guy. Like, he had the best quality and all the TV shows and even the side shit, and you would get his gigantic phone book catalog, and you would rummage through it. So, yeah, I mean, that's when people cared about that. But like, being that everything is at everyone's fingertips and opinions are out there, and like, who cares what Dave thinks? Who cares? I don't get it. I don't understand it. Like, I don't get angry with it. I don't get elated that, oh, Dave gave my favorite wrestler. I don't give a shit. Don't care.
As soon as you broke the scale, it ceased to have any kind of value to me.
Right, but like, again, you used those star ratings as a gauge of, okay, I gotta watch this match, not where it is now of that. No, that's not even close.
It's not a gauge of I should watch this match. It's Dave Meltzer enjoyed this match.
Correct.
He's got a particular type of match that he likes. So for me, it has lost its value in being
1,000%.
So something to recommend matches that I might not have seen.
Correct.
So there we go. We're like 50 minutes into this, and we've barely scratched the surface, David. This is why we're the best. Okay, let's get into it. I'm going to speed things up a bit and start talking about these G1 Climax semi-finals. So the first one was the A block runner-up, Ryohei Oiwa, defeating the B block first place, Callum Newman, 80 minutes 44 seconds with the grip. And this was just a real next generation match. And I've said throughout this tournament, like, they could have gone with safer options, a guy like Takeshita or Goto or Zack or Shingo, but there's a real clear signal here that we're in this new era, and Callum Newman is a huge part of that. So I'm going to kind of focus on Callum here, because we're going to talk about Oiwa later within the context of the final. So I'm just going to kind of zoom in on Callum Newman here. So now, obviously, he is the youngest IWGP champion. I think he's been a cornerstone of the B block. I've really enjoyed his work. I know it's kind of, your mileage may vary depending if you like that kind of style, but I think you cannot doubt that he works incredibly hard and sacrifices his body to help other people get over it. And him working through that back injury from the table spot with Henare added a layer of sympathy to his heel presentation. It's those grey areas that are really interesting to me, like the complexity and depth of the characters, that it's not just black and white. So I'll say in the space of about a year, with outstanding development on his part and some bold booking and nurturing from the New Japan side, we've now got in Callum Newman a former world champion who can work that crowd pleaser, 100 miles an hour, bang, 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 main event style, put his body on the line and just do a fantastic job making his opponents look good. I thought he was an outstanding foil here for Oiwa in terms of helping to build that heat and pace the match around Oiwa's big comebacks and selling the cumulative effect of Oiwa's grinding style. Like, come the closing stretch of this match, Callum looked like he was a zombie. He was just like on autopilot, just working on the absolute last dregs of his energy and spirit. Like, collectively, they've all done such a great job in making this G1 Climax tournament one long cohesive narrative where each match is an important piece in the bigger picture, and they weave together to tell a story. Like, you can't just parachute in to one match and expect to get it. This was a story of this cocky young prick who until very recently was world champion, but now trying to navigate his own body letting him down as the injuries pile up, and how that reconciled with his ego, where he doesn't want to change his style. He won't change his style. This is who he is, and he's going to deploy that reckless style, whether or not it's a good idea. But he's also going to show an edge of cunning to, seize an opportunity that presents itself and do a little cheeky kick in the testicles if the opportunity's there. So if that means bending or breaking the rules, so be it. But ultimately here, it was like he just ran out of energy. He emptied the tank against Oiwa, so his usual high speed and high impact Arsenal moves was just ineffective against the big lock. And they told a great story here where Callum was just so shook by the big lock and realizing how dangerous it was and desperate to avoid it, and avoiding standing in the pocket with Oiwa, where, like, if he was standing anywhere close to him, Oiwa was just snatching his head and locking that shit in, giving even a second of being close to him. So he tried to turn it into a slugfest, but Oiwa's lariat was stronger than Callum's was. And I thought a really great chemistry with Callum's explosive athletic style against Oiwa's grounded powerhouse Arsenal moves. And just that Callum is a really brilliant foil for this crop of new main eventers. It plays perfectly into Oiwa's progressive narrative of his big lock and lariat being these simple but deadly weapons. And I thought it was a really important part in Oiwa's journey to victory, where he can overcome this big threat in the semi-final, and Takeshita before that. So I say it's really excellent booking, because Newman doesn't need the G1 final. He feels like a made man already. He's been world champion. He's a New Japan Cup winner. He's beaten top guys even within this tournament, like Zach and Yuya and Gabe. And I don't think he's hurt by the defeat at all. So now he's become, for now, the perfect stepping stone to help establish a new guy like Oiwa. But at any time in the future, you could heat him up and plug him into the main event as challenger, champion, or big high profile feud with Will Ospreay. You could do so many different things with him now.
Right? Name me another guy that you would rather have him in the ring with, in that spot, to help a guy who was on a heater. Don't get me wrong. He was on a heater, and every win was people were kind of getting behind him. And if we were to peel back the curtain, so to speak, he's going to go up against, in the finals, the ultimate New Japan Pro Wrestling babyface at this point, right? The number one. So again, you don't want him going into this match, Oiwa, I'm speaking of, going into this match, give me another guy that you would rather have in that semifinal match, a complete dick, right? There's one thing to get over his grip and his power and his muscle and the fact that he's just going to grind you to fuck down. Like you need someone in there that can help amplify that. And you're not going to, okay, are you going to argue that, why not? If that's the case, why don't you just put Ren in there or something? And it's no, that's completely different. It really is. It's completely different. Newman is a made guy. He's a made guy. And you were exactly right. He did not want to get in arm's length of the guy at a certain point, because he knew, if I get fucking within that arm's length, I'm going to be smothered. I'm going to be smothered. I will say this, an underrated thing about Callum are his facial expressions, because I don't think that they're over the top, and I don't think that they're pantomime-y, one act play, over the top nonsense. You could sense the fear in him as the match was progressing. And I think that's exactly what we wanted to do. That's exactly how we needed to handle it. It was another legitimate win on the way, the rung of the ladders, to make Oiwa this guy that felt unstoppable. And it showed commitment, and it showed the fact that it didn't feel like you. And one of the great things about the final, and we'll get there, was the fact that it was you didn't know, and that's a good feeling. But you had two guys make it to the finals, beating studs, absolute fucking studs, to then meet and say, okay, we're going to find out who's going to be the guy now. Who's going to be at least a guy, a made guy. Callum Newman, man. And let's not forget, and your mileage may vary when it comes to outside the ring stuff and blah. He worked his ass off each and every night. He really did. I have all the praise for Callum in this tournament, because he did outstanding work in helping make that match wouldn't be as special if it weren't the work of Tsuji and Callum Newman. I'll say that. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to the next match then, which was the other semi-final, where Yuya Uemura defeated Yota Tsuji 25 minutes, 10 seconds with the Kaneki suplex, the deadbolt suplex. Very, very different to the previous match, where Callum and Oiwa, that's two guys just happening to meet in the semi-final. But this was, I think it was the 53rd match between two dojo rivals, right? These guys have been wrestling each other since they were trainees. And I really feel Yota Tsuji is the strongest case at the moment for Wrestler of the Year, certainly for New Japan at least. And he's made himself, rather than a guy who was just trying to get all his shit in and have flashy matches, he's now become, I feel like, the ultimate wall for the new guys to overcome. He's just on this incredible run. He is the fucking standard in New Japan right now. If you want to be a top guy, you've got to go through him. And I think he's tweaked his style and his presentation and added those rough edges that we talk about a lot, where he shows his cockiness and levels of smirking disdain for his opponents. And he will physically dominate you and put you in your place. And if Yuya wants to get his shit in here, his dragon suplex and his deadbolt suplex, he's going to have to fucking work for it, right? Because this is Yota Tsuji's spot. And in his mind, we're not just talking about who wins the G1 Climax, but this is bigger than that. It's like, who's the top dog in the company? Because in Yota Tsuji's mind, he's had to scratch and claw his way here and deal with all the big egos who refuse to put him over and work with him. So he's now the benchmark, right? You need to get on his level if you want to have a seat at the top table. So this match told a really great story of the rivalry between the two of them, with Tsuji acting as the gatekeeper who believes he's superior and is going to make Yuya feel like he's back in the dojo, right? He's hell-bent on working over Yuya's lower back and making him submit to the Boston Crab to prove that he's always going to be in Tsuji's shadow. And it was just such a brilliant structure to make Yuya shine by putting a beating on him, not like the same way that Gabe Kidd did with, elbows and slaps and punches and that, but in a more sort of a grueling, punishing dojo style, like a vindictive trainer, rather than someone like you've picked a fight within a bar. There was moments like he had the high angle Boston Crab and he just kneed him in the spine. Like, that's just mean. That's nasty work. It's the sort of thing that, you do to your little brother if you're wrestling on the sofa just to put them in their place and assert your dominance over them. Like, they're not going out there swinging for the fences. It's deeper than that. And it felt like this match was just as much about their history in the dojo and their ego and their pride, their relationship with each other, as much as it was about who makes it to the G1 final. And they took that further with Tsuji trying to demonstrate that his experience and his style has put him out of Yuya's league. He went for the Guerrero special, little nod to his Mexico excursion there, as if to say, okay, yeah, we know all each other's dojo moves, but let's see what you're going to do about this. What's your answer to this one? So I thought Tsuji just did a masterful job. He set the table perfectly for the Yuya comeback, where he once again shows his unwavering commitment to his vision of pro wrestling, where Yuya, he counters the fire blast with a double overhook. He's showing his own grit and willingness to fight dirty with his headbutt and having his own trick up his sleeve. He had that new move, the shining elbow, to set up the Lion Shiner and the Kaneki suplex, which he's used to beat Tsuji with before. Really satisfying finish. So, obviously, like I said, we're going to go on and praise Yuya Uemura and Ryohei Oiwa for their great work in the final, but I think it's just as important here to shine a light on the masterful job that Callum Newman and Yota Tsuji have done as the sub-boss, right? The hurdle that Uemura and Oiwa needed to overcome, and how they very carefully structured and paced the matches to create the optimum conditions for the babyface comeback, to showcase their opponent's strengths and hide their weaknesses, and layer on top of their tournament narratives and character progression, and help establish these generational rivalries that people want to see again and again, right? These are not guys who've reached the top and are just pulling up the drawbridge behind them thinking, well, I'm the top guy now and F everybody else. They understand that a rising tide lifts all boats. And in order for this to work and this company to be successful, these rivalries need to be nurtured really carefully, because they're the absolute bread and butter of this promotion.
I mean, going into this tournament, I always kind of sit back and remember sitting at our little meetup in Chicago, and I kind of went around and was like, who's going to win this? Who's going to win this? Who's going to win this? And there were people, definitely, they were like, Yuya's the guy. Yuya's winning this. Yuya. Think about this. Yuya beats. And another thing that I like, I might be all over. I'm going to try and consolidate my thoughts here. Yuya beat the world champion to get there. Now, I know that in many cases, especially in modern New Japan Pro Wrestling, the champion isn't going to win G1, because G1 theoretically is there to help set up future challenges. And it's not like guys like Okada, when he was champion, wouldn't lose. Did you feel... one of the things I love about Yota Tsuji is that there is a vulnerability with him. Like, he is not this dominant force. At least I don't feel it. Like, he's this dominant force. Like, there's vulnerability there.
And I just drop in with that bit in the Oleg Boltin match where Oleg shouted at him and he got scared and was like,
right. Now, I personally love that. I love that. So Yuya beats the world champion. Oiwa, who, well, let's not forget, was in the fucking play-in. He had to win a match to get in the goddamn tournament, goes on a heater and beats Callum Newman, a former world champion, and, correct me if I'm wrong, New Japan Cup winner. Mm-hmm. Like those are hurdles, kids. Again, if it wasn't, I'm not saying that finals, and again, we're going to dig deep into that, wouldn't have been great if there were other people in that semifinal spot that they had to beat to get through. I find it hard to believe, though. Like, it really, really, really felt like this company was clicking on all cylinders in the idea of, here's what we got to do in this tournament. And I don't know how... Let's put it this way. I think a lot of people thought Shota was going to be in this final, right? Injury occurs, and now we have to figure something out. We got to go with plan B. I don't even think Oiwa was plan C. I want to believe in my heart, Joel, that they reacted to how people reacted to Oiwa. I really want to believe that. Do I think that's the case? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I would love to think that him going on a heater, and I use that term a lot today, but him going on a run and people kind of slowly but surely getting on board was maybe a little bit on the fly. A little bit. Maybe not. Regardless, Yota Tsuji, Callum Newman deserve flowers for putting that final in the place that it was. I truly believe that.
Now let's move on to the Hiroyoshi Tenzan retirement match where Satoshi Kojima defeated Hiroyoshi Tenzan 9 minutes 22 seconds with a lariat. Look, this is terrible. Why wasn't Tenzan wrestling against a young guy who he could put over and make into a star on his way out? I know it doesn't work like that, does it? No. Look, New Japan, it's not a perfect company by any means, but they fucking nail these retirements every single time. They are always perfect. They hit all the right emotional and narrative beats to get you in your feels and leave you all misty-eyed about the magic of pro wrestling and sort of touch on things that you might not see or think about when it's the current crop, like the modern day roster wrestling each other. And this was a match all about like vulnerability and struggling for dignity and just trying to get yourself to your feet so you can go out on your sword. And there was a fantastic 35-minute. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this was about inevitably getting old, wasn't it? There's a really great 35-minute retrospective video about Tenzan on the New Japan YouTube channel. So if you've not seen that, it's worth checking out. Really wish they did more of that stuff. Tell Chris to make more of them and Walker to narrate them. They're not busy. They can handle it. And might I add, statement that Tenzan should have been disqualified immediately for using the Mongolian chop. Right,
that's right.
Protect the integrity of that stipulation against Great-O-Khan.
That's Great-O-Khan.
But yeah, these retirement matches, they're never something I actively look forward to on paper, but they're always just brilliant. They're so memorable and emotive, and seeing like the combination of pride and sadness in their eyes as they make their final entrance as a pro wrestler in their gear and their music and looking out to the fans for one last time, like going to war one final time, and a camera cut to Kojima standing in the ring and he's barely holding it together. It's such a mix of emotions seeing this broken down, barely mobile 55-year-old man who's just given everything to this business and this company and these fans. He sacrificed his health and his body for them. He can barely stay upright. He can barely stand on his 2 feet. He's just trying to hold himself together physically and muster the strength and the endurance just for one final battle. And those moments where he just kept falling over, and the frustration of his friend Kojima just urging him to get to his feet and go out on his shield like a warrior. Just getting to see those signature moves for the last time, particularly the Tenzan suplex, which became a cornerstone for the following day's final, and the tease of the moonsault, where there's a sensible part of your brain saying, absolutely no fucking way, you will literally die if you attempt this, but there's that little lizard bit of your brain going, fucking do it. And just the joy of that final strike exchange and the last moment of defiance and fighter's pride. He gets his kick out at one, his head and his heart, they're not going to quit before his body does, until he finally succumbs to that third lariat from his best mate. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to hurt his friend and end his career, but he knows he has to. He knows he owes it to Tenzan to do this properly and do it on their feet like fighters. But it's all just executed without any melodrama or mawkishness. It just felt really real to me. It was a good old
I'm
fight.
sorry, I love you.
Yeah, exactly, right? No mid-match promos. It was just a guys just desperately trying to have a fight between two sad, proud old men, just to wrap a bow on an outstanding career for Hiroyoshi Tenzan. And a match about getting old.
Yeah. I mean, I went back and watched his G1 final. I'm going to say 97 against Sasaki. And he was that barrel-chested, straight-ahead bull, thus the headgear. And to see him in the ring struggling to, let's be honest, to even walk, but yet grinding it. And again, I'm sure in his head, 5 minutes both felt like an eternity, and 5 minutes felt like 2 seconds, and we're done, and we're getting flowers. I will say this: I am not online. I'm not one that goes digging around for comments and people's opinions and stuff like that. I have my own, and I'm good with that. But I did hop on, obviously, in this past weekend. There's no doubt about it. And I'm very happy that I didn't really see any. Like, people got it. People got why that match was there. And they got the idea of this is just everything that you described. Everything that you described. Better than I can. And it wasn't, this guy can barely walk. And, why would they have that? And no silly, I'm just going to take the fucking piss, or I'm just going to be the troll. Like, there wasn't that. And
just please get to your feet so we can finish this the right way.
Yeah. And I think New Japan does it the best. You said it. They do it the best. And I will say this as well. I mean, there's no doubt that during that time, look at the ringside area and look at the fans and how many people were there for him. Like, this was a good time for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Let's make no mistake about it. Him being in the NWO Japan, and him getting big time title shots. At the time against Hashimoto I think it was the Nagoya Dome, I want to say. That, it was a relatively new building, mind you, but it set their record for attendance. People I love the fact that people remember in a time, and even now when people, I think it was Rich and Joe were talking about it, and I caught a little bit of it. I didn't listen to the entire show, so I hope this gets the gist of it. But they were talking about how a lot of that era for New Japan Pro Wrestling really isn't readily available. And I was like, all right, that's weird. And even on New Japan World, it's not like there's this gigantic library of stuff. And again, that's more to do with Samurai TV at the time and now, and who owns the rights and all. We get that. Who cares? That's boring. And I even went back and looked into my hard drives and stuff, and I was like, yeah, it's weird. Like, I have a lot of stuff, but I don't necessarily have a lot of specifically like Tenzan and even like Kojima in All Japan and stuff like that. My point being is this. They made mention that, he might go down as one guy that people might forget. And I know that he was on the tail end of his career when a lot of people jumped on board with New Japan. And you would hope that you would be able to go back and watch stuff. And again, some stuff's available, but yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a ton. And I hope that he's a guy that doesn't get lost in the mix. And I think a lot of the guys from that era might have that disadvantage, maybe, possibly. But yeah, try and find stuff. I mean, to me, my personal favorite is that G1 Climax, him against Sasaki. And he also had a final with Jun Akiyama, if I'm not mistaken, as well. That was pretty good too. Yeah, it was touching. It was touching. It really was. It was touching. And it did remind me personally of, boy, getting old really fucking blows. There's no way around it. It really does blow. But it was nice. It was a nice thing for everyone. I truly appreciated it.
Also, what on earth is Kojima on? Because he's allegedly also 55. He looks like he stopped aging about 15 years ago. That's insane that they're actually the same age. That's preposterous.
It's all those US tours, baby. It's all those US tours. He likes to. There's something here that's keeping him young.
It's in the bread.
The bread, absolutely.
Oh, also, we had afterwards the Takashi Iizuka stuff where his music hit, and I love that the camera just immediately cut to a very frightened looking Shunpei Nogami, and what a moment that was. With 7 years we've been waiting for that. They teased the handshake and the reconciliation at the Iizuka retirement. When I looked up the Iizuka retirement show and it said February 29. It said 7 years ago. I was like, what? No way was that 7 years ago. So speaking of feeling old, goodness me. But that was a really heartwarming moment before he then goes back to normal and rips off Nagami's shirt. So sure. Possibly the last time, maybe, but that was very fun. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, I think it was, again, on my travels via the wild, wild world of web, I saw, I think it was John Carroll, who was talking about how he was just pissing his pants laughing at how the fans were they were so happy to run for their lives as he's making his way down through the crowd to the ring. I thought that was pretty funny too. So yeah, good stuff. And again, in an era that, boy, I hope it doesn't get lost. But yeah, good stuff.
A couple of questions here. Keith says, will the 5-minute exhibition be the standard for mid-card retirements going forward? People on Discord took a lot of exception to Keith using the term mid-cards, but I know what he meant. I get Tenzan's banged up, but they did the same thing with Tiger Mask, though to be fair, he had 2 matches, giving more time for the ceremony and guests. Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? It's not about the match. It's about the moments and the ceremony afterwards and getting all your friends down and getting to the 10 bell salute, all that stuff. So
he's a top 20 guy in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's a top 20 guy.
Yeah. So I don't think that the length of the match is immaterial to me. I think that they'll give him as much time as they want, basically. Strong Style Story says, in regards to Tenzan, should New Japan and World's done a lot more in the build-up to his retirement, some of the matches with English comms. So yeah, that could be a next step for them in future. Put some stuff up on the YouTube channel with some of his top matches if they hadn't done so. I don't think they did that anyway, but yeah.
I mean, to be fair, they're working on the podcast. that hasn't been updated since Best of the Super Juniors last year, something like that. But I kid.
And Daryl says, "How is Izuka in better shape than 70% of this roster?"
Because all he had to do for the past 20 years was walk through a crowd and with the fucking Iron Fist. Let's be honest here, he didn't really have to do a lot
to keep all the trainees in check in the dojo.
Yeah.
Right. We've got a lot of run-ins now. I need to fix that. Yes, I will.
Yeah.
We're
right in the middle of maybe our most important show in the past 5 years now. But okay, he'll fix it.
Microphone, all going tits up now.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk now about the G1 Climax final itself. So this was, let me get the correct page up here. You know what? I might go upstairs because this
really.
I'm going to move the cat over here. I'm just going to take my tray upstairs.
All right.
Affect things, but there's going to be too much noise in here, and I want to do this match justice. I apologize if the sound quality is a little bit ropey for now. Basically, Damon, I want to tackle this match in two parts. I want to talk about the match itself, so like the bell-to-bell in-ring action, and then afterwards I want to talk about the impact and potential legacy of this match. So if that is okay with you, I'm just going to put my shit down.
This is amazing. Yeah. This is pretty great. We're walking and talking and traveling, and we're doing it all.
I need my cup of tea as well.
Look at this, people. This is what Joel. He's so excited. He needs to have his own space. He needs to clear out kick everybody out of the house. Just get them out. Send them to fucking, I don't know. Send them to Nando's or something. Get them out of the house.
The cat's still up here as well. I'm not having the cat here because he's better in it as well. So Scrumpy, you can get lost. Well.
You can get lost.
I'm not giving you any more food.
Yeah. Go attack a rabbit. Poor rabbits. All right, very good. We'll wait for him to get settled in.
I'm going to do without breath now because I just run up and down the stairs.
He's all over the. We've got here the steps. This is fantastic.
Right, I'm back.
I love it. Great job by you. Look at you. You sound like $1 million too, by the way. Here he is. Settle in.
Right. Sit down.
Get comfy.
I'll get my tea.
Yeah.
Have a little sip of tea.
Have a little sip. Get your energy up.
That's good. Good stuff.
Now, would you like to start, or would you like me to start?
I don't know. I feel like I've got so much to say about this match.
Well, go. Start with your first thoughts. Kick us off.
All right. Well, let's talk about the result then.
Okay.
G1 Climax 36. Can you talk for a bit? Because I'm out of breath. I do want to go first.
He blew himself up.
That's really taking the wind out of me there. I'm so physically unfit. Just going up and down the stairs there, just really taking it out of me.
Oh, wow. Yes, I can. This entire G1, and I texted Joel, who apparently, I did say, this is my tweet, but I meant that it was a joke, but he sent it out as a tweet.
I did tweet. Yeah. When you say tweet, yes. I tweet. And people enjoyed that. It's on good numbers.
I think so. Yeah. And I said that this match felt like, and again, let me rewind first. Let's talk about the match itself, because for the entire tour, and in not just Yuya, not just Oiwa, but at different times and different places in different venues, you had finishes that felt very sudden. And oops, I got caught in this move and I'm done. Let's move to, and we've been talking about it the entire tour. If you caught it on our Patreon $10 tier G1 Climax audio, we constantly, and again, we really didn't do a ton of like back and forth with notes, or we let each other fucking rock on these things, right? We kind of made these little pockets of audio our own. But across the board, we were constantly hitting home that, boy, it feels like you've got Yuya, who is working this ultimate 80s style babyface is what I called it. And a very difficult thing to do, mind you. And you had Oiwa, who was, again, establishing this grind, as he, the grip he called it, to establish the fact that he is just this beast. And if you get caught, you're fucked. They went out and in an era in 2026 went out there and established I don't even want to say a pace, because the pace was there. And I don't want to sit here and say this was centered around an armbar and a headlock. But in 2026, yes, that happened. And it was spectacular. I don't know if it was the moment. I don't know if it was everyone just kind of getting on board and riding a wave. But I said that, like, it was this match was a moment where people can reimagine and understand and get back to what New Japan Pro Wrestling is. And what they did in this match was remove 15 years, maybe even more, of New Japan tropes of, well, we got to hit the 30-minute mark before we start kicking it into high gear, and we're going to kick out of everybody's fucking finishers, and we're going to... And let me be very clear. To this day still, my favorite match of all time is Okada-Kenny, hour-long. That's my favorite match. This match, to me, though, was such a fucking plant the flag in the sand moment for not just me, but apparently a ton of other people. Some people who are hardcore New Japan Pro Wrestling fans, some that parachute in for the big events, some that haven't watched in years. And they came back to this match and were mesmerized and were dazzled and were just blown away by the sheer audacity that in 2026, they were going to do that. And it hit on so many levels. It took you on a roller coaster ride. Joel, there were moments where, Yuya's making his comeback and Oiwa cuts him off and boom, we're back to the headlock. But then the struggle ensues again and you think, well, this is the moment because you're conditioned by those 15 years of, well, here it comes. And once again, it was just stymied and it was just cut off. And it was that constant struggle and that constant battle. You made mention, and we joke about it on the show, and it was half serious, half, poking fun, but whatever the case may be, of your analogy with the restaurant and the muscles, right? And you don't need steak, and you don't need pasta, and you don't need all of that if you make one good thing. And I really feel like they made such incredible strides in doing the basic. And I say that the basic in the sense of not as a hand wave, not as, oh, I'm just grabbing an arm bar, or, oh, I'm just grabbing a headlock. No, there was work put in to establish the fact that it is going to be important and substantial moments in a match. Joe, all I've seen is universal praise. All I've seen is just an outpouring of, this is what I've been waiting for. This is what I've been begging for. This is it. I'm not saying that this is New Japan Pro Wrestling now turns into rings. I'm not saying that we now turn into fucking an offshoot of an MMA promotion. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, what I'm saying is that it makes those moments of the other type of pro wrestling even more important and more significant. You can have both, and you can have both intertwined, dare I say, on the same pro wrestling show. There's a place for it. There's a love of it, no doubt. But the fact that these two guys in a year, and please, let's not forget that the legwork had been put in with a Boston Crab from Yota Tsuji at Wrestle Kingdom. Like, that was the seed. They've been doing this all year. They've been setting this up all year. But there's a big fucking difference between having this pie-in-the-sky idea, Joel, and the execution of it flawlessly. And that's exactly what these two guys did. We have been waiting, salivating for moments like this. Let the kids cook. Let them go and do what they need to do. And lest anyone think that our future is not bright between Oleg Boltin, between Yota Tsuji, between Aaron Wolf, between Yuya Uemura and Callum Newman, and you name it. You mean to tell me that you're not excited by this? It is. What a time to be alive. I know we were supposed to talk more about the match than everything, but it blended into one with me. I tell you what, Joel, I turned off that show and I was buzzing. And I was like, did I see what I just saw? Did I experience this tournament as a whole? Did I, is this a fucking fever dream? Because I couldn't believe that, again, when we talk about modern day pro wrestling, they did that. And they said, here's a standard that this is our era. And this is us. And we know we can hit the ball out of the park. And once again, there's a big difference between saying it and doing it. And they went out there and fucking crushed it, which made me incredibly, incredibly happy and excited for what this year is yet to give us. Joel, the floor is yours.
Yeah, it wasn't a surprise. I mean, we saw them tear it up last year in the G1 at Korakuen Hall in one of their block matches. Obviously, that's a far less consequential match, but, the real ones knew. We saw it back then. So we celebrated it then for how bold and refreshing it was, it's pro wrestling going back to its roots, but just giving them the platform to make their magic again in a G1 final in a raucous sumo hall in a match that, you said before, it may not even have happened if Shota hadn't been injured. And, we were wondering going into it, could they match what they did last year, which is quite a tall order. But, this is also a match that the true Shin Nihon freaks we were hoping for as the tournament reached its latter stages. And we're doing the maths and thinking, maybe they could meet in the semifinals, or if this happens, he beats him, then, it could be the final. We were kind of whispering it because we didn't want to jinx it, but we finally got it, right? It was there on paper and we knew what they were capable of, given the chance, and so it was. And I know, normally I don't do sort of move by move soliloquies about how brilliant the match was, but I can't help but do it. And I think the match deserves it here because I just feel that every part of the match was so well executed and was consequential and just so simple. The headlock versus the wrist lock, right? Everyone knows it. You can. It's not the hardest and most subtle story to grasp, but it was just executed so well. And just from the very first opening, right, the hubris of Yuya opening up the match by showing Oiwa, I can do a headlock too, fucker, and dominating early proceedings with his own headlock. And then Oiwa having to use his size and his muscle to knock the wind out of Yuya and give Yuya just a little taste of the big lock. Didn't lock on completely. There's just a little bit of it to show this shit hurts and you're going to be in big trouble if you get locked into this. And then Yuya fires back with his idiosyncratic arm drag and wrist lock, and there's just countless futile attempts to reverse it and escape it. That 10-minute call came out of nowhere. I thought I'd been watching it for about 3 minutes, right? And then they did the 10-minute call. I was like, what? 10 minutes? There's no way. Because it was just absolutely riveting stuff, like the back and forth, hold for hold, takedown for takedown, the technique and excellence and fluidity of those transition attempts, and the crowd starting to get on board with it. It started off with that, just, like the deep murmur of appreciation, just starting to rumble as they're letting us know they are buying what these boys are selling. They are fully on board with what these two artists are doing. So just a simple story. Yuya, whilst he was on the back foot against Yota Tsuji and doing the babyface comeback here, this time he was showing his range by dominating with his technique, and he's punishing Oiwa. Not punishing with like a heelish slant, but with just like the ruthless efficiency of an elite.
One step ahead. Yep.
Right, exactly. But also, plowing that fertile ground, ready for the Oiwa comeback, and Yuya's the flash and the showmanship of his float overs and his bridges, but then Oiwa using his thick muscular thighs to start working over Yuya's skull in a different way, not using the headlock. And there was like one instance of one of the wrestlers leaving the ring when Yuya was tipped over to the apron. That was it. Rest of the match entirely in the ring. So he got tipped out onto the apron, and then Oiwa just dragged him straight back into the middle of the ring with a big lock. Like, that felt like a statement to me. Like, yeah, we could go outside, but we're not going to. It's all going to happen right in the middle of the ring. And another one of just the fundamentals of the dojo, the cravat being used to layer on the punishment to the head and the neck. Like, it mattered because that was the area that Oiwa was targeting. And then just seeing them just jockeying for position, like every hold, every counter hold, a struggle. And Yuya, it was about like 20 minutes in where he started to introduce some strikes. Right, it was the first strike of the match. He did there was a couple of targeted elbows and a drop kick here and there, and then the crowd started to get behind Oiwa, and then Yuya get a bit nasty, some high impact attacks on Oiwa's arm, and Oiwa's selling. I thought the selling was great. I've seen some complaints of it. I don't buy that at all. I thought it was outstanding. It was understated but really effective. He's like gritting his teeth and trying to break out his own high impact moves. Like, he tried to do the Dr. Bomb, but he was barely able to lift Yuya. And
he wasn't even able to lift the trophy afterward,
Yeah. And like, Yuya's just running rings around him at this point, and the control of the match is just starting to slip away from Oiwa. But what does he use to turn the tide? It's a fucking Tenzan suplex. A loving tribute to the legend who sat ringside, delight of the crowd. And that, to me, was just a very small but very clear indicator of who we're supposed to be cheering for. And they're just doing these desperate dueling suplexes, like the attempt for the dragon suplex, and Oiwa's fighting out of it and firing back with his own German suplex. And there's Zach losing his mind at ringside trying to coach his boy, and
he was great.
He was so good, wasn't he? Like, he's emoting and sort of trying to coach him, showing him how to put on the maneuvers properly. And the Yuya, he went to the top rope for a high fly flow. That was the one time the top rope move landed. I think he tried to go for the top rope later on in the match, but because that was the one time it happened, it stood out all the more because of all that excellent groundwork that preceded it. Because he goes to the top rope because you've had 25 minutes of grappling. You're like, holy shit, he's on the top rope. And it meant something. And then Oiwa using that little moment of doubt following that near fall to finally slap on the big lock. And just because we've been primed for it so brilliantly, not just for the groundwork that they did during this match, but the groundwork throughout the whole tournament, that we know exactly how dangerous that move is. Yuya knows it too. And he's just absolutely desperate. He's trying reversal after reversal. But Oiwa, he's like a shark. He smells blood in the water. He's gripping onto Yuya's head. He's going in for the kill. It's that sensational moment, the reversal of the lariat. It was the same lariat that finished off Takeshita and Newman, but Yuya knows that it's coming and just hits it that picture perfect, just beautiful arm drag counter into the armbar. The crowd losing their mind, and this is it, right? That's all it just comes down to now. The wrist lock versus the headlock. Both men fight tooth and nail to assert the dominance and superiority of their hold. They want to show that their hold is better than the others. And Oiwa roaring in pain. Yuya's wrenching his arm out of its socket. The crowd are chanting for Oiwa's comeback. And then there was just one final Tenzan suplex. That was Oiwa's last roll of the dice to break free. And then they just didn't do anything after that. There was that masterful moment just to let that moment breathe. as they're both just struggling to their feet and catching their breath, letting the crowd show their approval, getting a nice little zoom in to the G1 trophy. And then Yuya's trying to do the Kaneki suplex, and Oi was countering that with just desperate flailing lariats from his busted arm. Like, he's barely able to land it because his arm's been fucked up. And it just comes down to just the simplicity, whose grip is stronger. So Oi was squeezing and wrenching Yuya's head, and he's trying to power through the pain of the damage that Yuya's dealt to his arm, and Yuya's last burst of energy gets to his feet, only just be dragged back down to the mat. Oiwa arches his back. He's nearly tearing Yuya's head off at this point. He's got no choice but to tap. It was just a perfect match. It was perfect pro wrestling.
It really was. I tell you what, know what I loved? I loved the shit they didn't do. And you nailed it when you said, you know what? We're outside the ring for a moment, but I'm going to drag your ass back in. And here's where we're going to settle this. The fact that it was prime time ready for big move, kick out. You know, they didn't have to do that. They really didn't have to do that, and they didn't. And here's the thing too. They were confident in delivering what they were delivering, which is like they didn't have to convince anyone. Like, people were there for the fucking ride. And why? Because of the masterful job that not only they did during this match, but the build to everything. Like, everyone was in. Everyone drank the punch already. Everyone knew what was happening. And the fact that they had the balls, a lot of balls going around here, Joel. One, the balls that fucking New Japan Pro Wrestling had to do what they did is, I got to tip my cap to them, because this is a company that, quite honestly, is incredibly frustrating sometimes with the fact that we sat here in the preview show saying, oh, wouldn't it be great if they did this? And they're not going to do that, right? We sat here and did this, and they did it. The fact that they went out there and structured a match like this, like, took incredible fucking balls to do. And then to be able to pull it off is incredibly ballsy. Incredibly ballsy. Joel, people, I feel like people, this helped spark. This is preposterous to say in this day and age. This match, I truly believe, helped spark people's interest in pro wrestling again.
Yes, yeah. Like I said to you when I texted you, like, quite simply put, they made wrestling matter.
Yes.
Like, they put the W back into NJPW, and like, there has been this stylistic shift in the product, not just New Japan, but I think overall, like, we had guys like Naito and Kenny, Okada, Ibushi, Ospreay. They popularized a certain style which received exceptional critical acclaim, and rightly so, and influenced a great deal of wrestling over the last decade, to the point at which, right, you could make the case that it's become homogenous. I mean, even if you look at AEW, the entire company was built on the crest of the wave that Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks popularized, and they deliver on a weekly basis that type of wrestling that loads of people enjoy. So I'm not knocking that, but the effect of that is you get an audience who are conditioned to crave and expect that one style, and you get a generation of wrestlers trying to do something that's not necessarily what they're the best at. And look, we're not going to be intellectually dishonest and contrarian and retroactively say, oh, Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada was actually bad, right? We're not going to do anything like that. Right. That type of wrestling was incredible, still is absolutely sensational to watch. Right, I was there in Osaka-jo Hall for that best 2 out of 3 falls match, one of my absolute highlights of my life, getting to watch that match. So I'm not going to start shitting on it now because I've seen something different that I like. But I did, with hindsight, create an environment where the actual wrestling bit, I'm not talking about that match specifically, but that style of match, right? Just create an environment where the actual wrestling part of the wrestling match, right, the grappling, the holds, the pinning techniques, became, like I said to you, right, to use the analogy, it's the vegetables on your plate that you don't really want to eat, so you push it around a bit and then you reluctantly eat a bit of it because mum says you've got to eat them so you can have your pudding later. So the wrestling became this kind of perfunctory stage of a match that had to be in there to maintain its increasingly tenuous connection to pro wrestling, but it was done without love or care or creativity or consequence, right? It was done begrudgingly to fill a bit of time before you can get to the good stuff,
Right.
all the forearms and the flips and the flashy moves and all that, right? So you sit there, and we've all done it. You sit there and you scroll through Reddit or Twitter or Discord on your phone until you get a sense that it's picking up, and then you start paying attention. You rate the match based on the last 5 minutes or so, right? And there are many people who would argue that someone like Okada, for example, had significant early portions of his matches that were largely inconsequential, right? I'm not going to litigate that, but I think it's undeniable that the focus has shifted away from the actual fundamentals of wrestling and became more about the varying degrees of spectacle that could be delivered later in the match with, your finisher spam and reversals, kickouts, all of that, right? So Ryohei Oiwa and Yuya Uemura, they are not Kenny Omega or Okada or Naito or Ospreay. They know what they're good at, and they have a very clear idea of what they believe pro wrestling should be, or at the very least what they want their version of pro wrestling to be. That the wrestling matters. It's not just filler. It's the defining core of the match. It is a load-bearing element that is critical for the dramatic integrity of the story they're trying to tell, right? The wrist lock matters. The headlock matters. And if you zone out for the first 10 minutes or so, you're not going to enjoy it as much as you should, right? I wouldn't expect to be able to walk into a cinema or a theater halfway through a film or a play or like open a novel halfway through or tune into a TV series in the middle of a season and expect to really get it. And I'm fully aware saying this, a lot of modern media is crafted intentionally to cater for that type of person who sits and scrolls while the show's on in the background and they only look up when things get exciting. And you could certainly make the argument that a lot of modern wrestling is crafted in that way. But Yuya Uemura and Ryohei Oiwa said no, not on their watch. They have spent the last, you could argue 18 months, maybe even longer, right? Or specifically this tournament, retraining the audience that the wrestling matters. They cannot or will not, it doesn't matter, but they can't or won't copy their predecessors. They're not going to try and create an inferior facsimile of Prime Naito or Kenny or Okada or an Ospreay match. They're going to grab a hold, they're going to make it count, and they're going to make it good with technique and selling and emoting and urgency and consistency. And it's not just about the moves. It's the skill with which they are executed and how the match is structured and paced around them. And we know those moves are significant because they, not only them, but their opponents have worked extremely hard to condition us into understanding that it's important and will, at the very least, define the story of the match, if not end it. Guys like Takeshita and Callum Newman and Sanada, all the people that put over these moves and tapped out to them and were pinned by them earlier on in the tournament, this doesn't work without that, right? And we knew they were going to have this style of match. And what I was wondering going into it, I was thinking can you really appreciate this kind of match in isolation if you haven't been following their tournaments from day one? I was a bit skeptical, Damon. I thought this was going to turn into a massive culture war, and it still might. But as you said, from what I can tell, this match has received extremely high praise across the board, even from the tourists, the people who just drop in for the big matches who lack that buy-in, which shows that this is a very, very special match that I feel has largely united many different circles of the pro wrestling fandom and is resonating with people who maybe didn't even realize that they like this style. They've maybe never seen anything like this before. I'm not saying they're the first people ever to do it, but it's been a while since we've seen it done this well. So Yuya Uemura, Ryohei Oiwa, they have expertly and lovingly rejuvenated this lost art of actual wrestling and imbued it with renewed significance and drama. And that took skill. And like you said, Damon, a hell of a lot of courage to have a big stage like this, arguably the second biggest match on the New Japan calendar, and stick to their guns to deliver their vision of pro wrestling. And everyone loved it. Right. And it may well be another shift in the zeitgeist of the industry, because who knows, right? How many wrestlers have watched or will watch this match and find that it ignites some spark within them, like rekindle the embers of their love for the fundamentals of wrestling, things that they learned back at wrestling school and just stopped using because they weren't getting pops from the crowd. But all of this, right, it comes with an important caveat. And I think Oiwa's post-match comments are very instructive here on what he and I believe is the message here. So I'm going to read what Oiwa said. So I quote, "We went over 30 minutes with headlocks, takedowns, and arm drags. That is professional wrestling. In my view, that's the essence for me. Not everyone can do what Yuya and I did. Pro wrestling is at its best when everybody is different. I hate Yuta Ice, but he has his strikes and his way of fighting. Bolton is a monster. Uemura and I do what we do. I'm proud of my way, but I think everyone should fight in their own way. Uemura and I wrestled a match like only we can. I was confident we could fire up Ryogoku, and it really proved to myself that I was right in my choice of style and my way of wrestling." So that's the end of the quote. And while I absolutely adore this match and this style of wrestling, it had me on the edge of my seat. Like the full 35 minutes, I was absolutely gripped, pun intended. And I think this is the perfect main event style for New Japan, a brilliant way for the young stars to redefine the gold standard of the promotion. But the takeaway here should not be
copy
every
paste.
match needs to have a guy. Exactly, right? I don't want to see every match with a guy grabbing a hold for 30 minutes. I do not want everyone in New Japan to do this. I don't want Yuta Ice or Shingo Takagi or Oleg Bolton or Konosuke Takeshita or Francesco Akira or Shun Skywalker. I don't want them all to do this, right? I enjoy the variety. Look, sometimes it's great, sometimes it's shit, but nobody wants a homogenous product. So the message, I hope, to all aspiring young wrestlers is this: don't copy this style, but do what you're good at and believe in it. Do it with skill and emotion and conviction. And that ring is a blank canvas for you to do whatever you want. You can redefine the parameters of pro wrestling as you see it. If you find an element of it that you love and are good at, and you build your work around that. Because look, Uemura and Oiwa, they didn't exactly reinvent the wheel out there. Let's be clear, right? This match perhaps had more in common with a classic main event style epic than we might notice if we're distracted by the holds. Because if you were to map out this match in terms of the action, like the peaks and the troughs and the reversals and comebacks and near falls and finishes, it had all of that. All of those things were in this match. In terms of the structure and the pacing, it's the same stuff that Okada and Kenny and Naito and Tanahashi were doing, because that's just good drama. The only key difference here is that they believed in the wrestling and they made that the heart and soul of the match. Correct. And the cornerstone of that dramatic climax. And like, it could literally be a match that changes our lives. It could redefine the next 5-10 years, not just in New Japan, but wrestling as a whole. And, you know, stepping back, what an advert for the New Japan Dojo. I texted you that before, right? It's not just a statement about, you know, the kayfabe aspect, how their fundamentals are good enough to beat anyone, but just having two homegrown blue chip prospects with no previous singles accolades from their own dojo being given the ball in one of the biggest spots in the year and just allowed to go out there and express themselves. And I'll bet every young wrestler on the planet, not just Japanese wrestlers, they should now be seeing this as the gold standard for training and development. They didn't just plug in the two biggest stars or top names borrowed from other promotions to get the most, you know, work rating match they could. They gave the spot to two dojo boys because they believed in them. And they thought that was important. That was an important statement to make, to have two Noge Dojo graduates to head in that spot. And look what happens. And I tell you this, Damon, right? I hate to do the tribalism. I don't really hate to. I love to do it. A lot of other fans and promotions and owners will be looking very, very enviously at this. Two homegrown talents capturing the imagination of the wrestling world with good old-fashioned basics. And those people are going to be doing a lot of soul searching right now, because I tell you, Damon, there is not a single other promotion on the planet that has the talent, the guts, the conviction, the vision, the skill to do what New Japan and Oiwa and Uemura did yesterday. It's the king of sports.
Let's fucking go. I missed that. I missed that Joel. I missed that version of Joel. I missed him. He's been away for a while. That guy. That fucking fired up guy. I love it. Well said. Well, I mean, look. I think about the 13-year-old kid sitting at home. You know, I'm sure there's a current crop of pro wrestlers right now that would point to, you know, Will versus Okada or Okada Kenny or what have you, that will look at this match and be like, this is the match that inspired me to be a pro wrestler. This is the match. it's kind of hard. It just feel. I texted you this. It feels like you've witnessed the Strokes, the band, in New York City in 2000, or you saw the Sex Pistols in Manchester, and you were one of the 50 people that were in the fucking audience. Like it's just the world is a very fickle place right now for everything that's going on, pro wrestling included. But to truly see, and as you called it, like almost a unifying sigh of yes, this is what. Not only were there pockets of this is what I've been waiting for the longest time and been yearning for, to I prefer the modern day, we'll put in quotes, wrestling, but boy, what a fucking match that was, and that was really enjoyable. And I see that, like, name me another time when that's happened. Maybe it was Wrestle Kingdom and Tanahashi and Okada. Maybe that was the last time. But again, I want to hammer home, this promotion has done a really admirable job of, when it matters and in the big spots, don't give me, well, what about House of Torture? Like, they're not, that's not, it's a place. It's a part of New Japan Pro Wrestling, but is it New Japan Pro Wrestling? Even at the height, people seem to fucking have selective memory sometimes too, Joel, of, even at the best peak of New Japan and Okada and Tanahashi and all that greatness that was there, you still had dog shit. Does anybody remember when the NWA was around and Thorpe was running around and, it wasn't the best. It wasn't that great. But again, it had its place in the middle of a fucking show, the middle of a card. Even the best, I don't care, give me the promotion. Crockett, do you think I was sitting here with my pants fucking down to Paul Jones and Jimmy Valiant? Who gives a shit? Right? All Japan. Do you think I was jacking it to fucking Kamala? Like, come on. Like, there's a place for everything. I just feel like this is such a seismic thing that, one, the company obviously isn't going to ignore, and they would be absolutely just boneheads if they did, and I just can't see it happening. Two, that just like you said, it doesn't necessarily have to be now copy paste. This is the new thing. This is the new thing we're all going to do. It just feels like we're at a point where, boy, something's changed. And to me, that is so fucking exciting. I can't even contain myself thinking about it. And not only that, Joel, and again, this might go outside the world of this particular match per se, but this is kind of like the catalyst of it. We have so many great different styles that people are making their own. And it's not up and down the card. You mean, just like he said, Yuta Ice is not the same as Yuya Uemura. It is not the same as Yota Tsuji. Like, the fact that we not only have this as kind of like this is our foundation, right? This is the new era. We have all these different guys that feel different and are doing their thing and doing it well. That's exciting to me. Oh, fuck me. How great.
Yeah, I've been saying throughout the tour, like, one of the biggest strengths of this G1 has been the way you plug in two different wrestlers into a big spot, and that their match is more than the sum of its parts, that they've both thought about their individual styles and their strengths and kayfabe weaknesses and crafted a really intricate, well thought out story between the two of them, where those two styles mesh together and create something brilliant, rather than just taking turns doing moves to each other. And again, I'm not completely burying that style. There's a time and place for it. I will get excited about that as much as the next person. But like I said, we've had a taste of something different, and I want more of it now.
Me too. Isn't it amazing, Joel? And I know we got to wrap it up soon, but isn't it amazing how out of Shota's hurt? now what? Like, we get this. Like, sometimes it's pretty amazing how opportunity knocks and just your world changes. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, they've really ridden with this one. Like, I'm assuming that the original plan was Shota. We've got some questions about that. Let's get into those now. So first of all, J.A.R.2 says, do you think Yuya is truly over now? I will say one thing that really impressed me here is he's shown his range, because he can work from underneath against a heel like a Callum Newman or a Gabe Kidd or a Yota Tsuji. But I think what he's also shown here is that he can work from on top, because I thought he did an absolutely brilliant job setting up Oiwa for Oiwa's babyface comeback in a way that was true to his character and his style. So I've seen something different from him here. I still need to see a bit more personality from both guys, to be fair. I want a little bit of the flash and the sizzle. I think, they've absolutely masterful from an in-ring perspective, but, just a little bit more character and personality wouldn't go amiss there. And I'm not asking for like gimmick catchphrases or anything like that, but just something. I think that is an area for growth, but I certainly have changed my opinion. I have a higher opinion of Yuya coming out of this than I did going into it.
Yeah. I think one of the big things, even before the finals, was, some of the stuff felt a little forced, right? And again, they put in a lot of work. I mean, there's a reason why there was the hug fests, him closing shows and him going around ringside. Like in hindsight, everything really feels pretty fucking strategic. And dare I say, they had to be. They did a great. Look, for years we both praise and we have fucking yelled at our microphones in our offices with our wives opening the door and peeking in and being like, "Are you all right in there?" Because you're just so fucking absolutely frustrated. They did it. They did a masterful job. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how, out of a shitty situation that everyone left, or the next day when you heard he was hurt and he was out of the tournament, boy, did they fucking pivot. And again, sometimes great opportunity comes and great things happen, and here we are.
There are a lot of very, very good questions here.
Go ahead, let's hear it.
I think maybe they'd be better off saved for next week.
Really? Can we do one?
Well, I'm just looking. Come
on, you hyped me up.
Let me just see what the schedule is like.
Yeah.
I want to see if there's any wrestling for us to talk about between now and next week. Right, so the next show is on Sunday, August the 30th.
Come on.
It's the Shimonoseki Impact 2026 presented by Boat Race Shimonoseki. So my point being, when we record next week, there's going to be F-all to talk about.
Right.
So perhaps it's better that we just let this sit and digest, and we come back to these questions, because there's really good questions here. There's questions about the challenging at KOPW, questions about upcoming programs for Destruction, about feuds with Naito possibly coming up. Where does Shota Umino fit, and what should the main event of Wrestle Kingdom be? There's some really, really good stuff there, but I think, how would you feel about leaving that for next week? So
I'm totally okay with it. And I would encourage others to ask questions as well. Let's make it a question show next week.
Yes. Patreon listeners, I'll give you priority. If you've got any burning questions, just stick them, get them to me on Patreon somehow, and I will put those at the top of the pile. But I think, given that there is no wrestling between now and August 30th, we'll save those questions for next week and give them the time that they deserve, because they are great questions.
Yes. And I would also say this. Not only questions, but why not comments as well? Sometimes you got a Twitter account and you got 13 fucking followers, and I'm not knocking it, mind you. I'm just saying. And let's amplify some voices. What do you say?
Yes.
So let's celebrate. Get the questions in. That'll be next week. Excellent.
All right. See you then.
Wrestling Omakase brings you a full-course meal of all of Japanese wrestling, men's and women's. Join me, a Japanese wrestling fan for over 20 years, along with a rotating cast of equally knowledgeable co-hosts as we cover everything from New Japan and Stardom to Noah, All Japan, DDT, Tokyo Joshi, Mari Gold, Sendai Girls, Dragon Gate, GLEAT, Ice Ribbon, and even more stuff. If you're a fan of Japanese wrestling and you want coverage of the entire scene in one podcast, check us out right here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network each and every week. Get us wherever you get podcasts today.